welcome back to Nails with Her Films. Last time I reviewed Inside Out. The link for that is in the description and the top right corner now. Naturally, I'll be reviewing Inside Out 2 this time. I watched it in the theater with my sister and it was a nice movie. Definitely a lot better than I expected. While the first film is still better in my opinion, Inside Out 2 is a solid film that understands why people like Inside Out in the first place. I'll go over the story through Riley's perspective first. So this time, Riley is going through puberty. She and her two best friends are invited to a 3-day hockey camp where the coach is also the coach of Riley's future high school hockey team. Riley learns that her friends are actually going to a different high school just before the camp starts. Anxious about her future, Riley desperately tries to impress the coach and make friends with the high school hockey team members. This strains her relationship with her friends, and she loses her sense of self. Overwhelmed by stress and no longer sure who she is anymore, chaos ensues in her mind. I'll go over what Inside Out 2 does well in a bit, but I'm going to explain why I think it's weaker than the first. Overall, Inside Out 2 is less focused, and the message is not as touching. At first, you would think the movie is about dealing with anxiety. However, toward the end of the film, there's also the message that a person is many things. We don't get to pick and choose what, but that's okay. These two don't really work together in my opinion. From the movie, it seems like Riley overcomes her anxiety by accepting that she is many things. She can be selfish, she can be good, she can be confused, she can be not good enough, etc., etc. I understand that the movie is trying to say that we need to learn to embrace our shortcomings and bad memories. Once we do that, we'll have a more complete sense of self and self-worth. Only then can we handle anxiety better. However, my problem is that the movie doesn't convey this in a clear, believable way. First of all, I don't think you can build a more complex and complete belief system in 2 minutes. Riley has a panic attack when she's in the penalty box. By the end of the 2 minutes, she accepts her complexity and calms herself down. I don't think that can happen so quickly. Building up a sense of self and understanding who you are takes a lot of time. I don't think it's achievable in a 3-day camp, let alone in 2 minutes. Furthermore, Riley just hit puberty, and teenagers aren't exactly known for being introspective and reflective, which is why I find her resolution in the end to be too fast. It's already weird that puberty just hits overnight, and it's even stranger that Riley learns to deal with it in 3 days. I know that the first movie only takes place over a few days as well, but Riley's growth is not as dramatic in that one. She just learns that it's okay to be sad, and that's a reasonable growth. On the other hand, Inside Out 2 makes it seem like Riley learns how to deal with anxiety after 3 days. The build-up just isn't there. Inside Out spends the whole movie building up that sadness is a necessary emotion. However, in this one, they didn't properly build up that bad memories are important too. So when it turns out that Riley's bad memories are crucial to solving her anxiety issue, it's less impactful and anticlimactic. But maybe that's because I don't relate to the story of anxiety as well as sadness. I consider myself to be an anxious person. I've been grinding my teeth in my sleep since I was in middle school. But I've never experienced a panic attack, or maybe I just didn't recognize it. Anyway, I can't really relate to Riley having a panic attack, so maybe that's why I think the way she deals with it is unrealistic. Another thing Inside Out 2 doesn't do as well as the first movie is how they portray anxiety. Inside Out successfully presented sadness, an emotion most of us would consider to be negative, as a necessary emotion that could help us. I think most of the audience, including myself, feel better about being sad after watching Inside Out. However, Inside Out 2 doesn't do the same for anxiety. Throughout the film, anxiety is generally presented negatively and its importance is not clear. They mention that anxiety exists to protect Riley, but the film only shows us how miserable Riley is when anxiety is in control. By the end of the movie, I still don't get why we need anxiety, especially when it only makes things worse. You might say, well, maybe that's the way it is. We don't need anxiety, but it's there. Deal with it. But that's a terrible message, especially for a kids' movie. They establish in the beginning that anxiety is there to protect Riley, but they don't really show that in the movie. Sure, there's the part where Joy gets Riley in trouble because she's goofing around with her friends, and anxiety is the one who helps her out of that situation. But overall, anxiety is still shown as undesirable. I think it would be better if they showed that anxiety's concerns were useful. For example, when Riley gets up early to practice because she's anxious, maybe have the coach acknowledge her effort and soften on Riley a bit, proving that anxiety is right. Or maybe have one of anxiety's worst case scenarios come true, proving that her concerns are justified. Having something along these lines would better convey why anxiety is a necessary emotion. There are also some other small things I don't really get. For example, what exactly is Ennui? I actually don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm just going to call her Wee Wee like Joy. She's supposed to be the boredom, but she's not just Riley feeling bored. Things like sarcasm and indifference are also related to Wee Wee. So what exactly is she? Also, how come the 5 emotions don't know what Riley's secrets are? If they control Riley's mind, shouldn't they know what Riley doesn't want others to know? Like last time, there are small things that don't make sense, but since they don't interfere with the story, it's not a big deal. Anyway, as much as I just complain about the movie, Inside Out 2 is a lot better than I expected. The way they portray anxiety is realistic and relatable. I especially like the imagination land part, where anxiety overworks the staff to draw potential bad outcomes. We all imagine the things that can go wrong when we're stressed out, and the way the movie shows this is very creative. Even though Riley is going through a lot of stress, the movie makes the situation into a fun scene that might be throwing shade at how overworked the animation industry is. But I seriously hope that nobody is overworked during the production of Inside Out 2, or else that scene will be ironic and unfunny. Artistically, Inside Out 2 is amazing. The design of the brain is still great. Additions like Stream of Consciousness and Brainstorm are all creative and fun. But what impressed me the most was the use of alternative animation styles. The first movie already did this during the Abstract Thought segment, but Inside Out 2 hit it out of the park. In Riley's Secrets, there's a Blue's Clue type of preschool show character with a pouch that's similar to Dora's backpack. They're all in 2D and perfectly capture the style of preschool shows. There's also a video game character that's like Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy. And he's not a smooth modern video game character. He's more PS2, PS3 era, so he's somewhat pixelated around the edges. Isn't that just so cool? I absolutely love that segment, despite the fact that it's not as important story-wise. Besides the animation, I also think some of the moments are really nice and heartwarming. For example, when Joy puts the old sense of self back, but it doesn't work, I think that's Riley trying to convince herself that she's a good person, but she doesn't believe it. I find that to be a bit sad, but relatable. We all try to convince ourselves that we're good people, but maybe that's not what we need. Sometimes we need to tell ourselves that we're not that good, but that's okay. And when Riley calms down and calls for Joy to take control, I think that's her saying to herself, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the moment and have fun. Riley loves hockey and it's supposed to bring her joy. However, when anxiety takes control, she doesn't feel happy playing anymore. It's heartwarming and soothing to see her play hockey in a relaxed, happy state. It's also a reminder that sometimes we just need to stop overthinking things and enjoy the moment. Anyway, that's basically my thought on Inside Out 2. It's a nice animated movie that would probably make you feel a bit better when you walk out of the theater. I still like the first one more, but the sequel is definitely better than I expected. It's one of Pixar's better sequels, especially compared to movies like Incredibles 2 or Finding Dory. I saw both of those in theater, yet I can't remember anything about them. I would say Inside Out 2 is worth watching. It's a very nice movie, just don't expect it to be as good as the first. Hope you guys like my review and nails. I did glitter nails again and I'm pretty happy with the result. I used the sugaring technique on all of these and I'm especially proud of Envy. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you want. Keep nailing it, and for the Canadians who are watching the Stanley Cup, that's go Oilers, people!